Okay, good morning, good evening, or good afternoon. My name is Baron Langster, and I'm doing my human resources presentation about the Family Medical and Leave Act of 1993. And I have appropriately entitled Forever Making Leave Adjustments because, of course, the bill is not perfect. No bill is perfect. You're always going to have changes. You're always going to have things that need to be updated. So let's go ahead and get this started. Excuse my voice. I am feeling a little bit under the weather, but we'll make do. And if you notice me moving close to the camera, it's just because I have a slideshow presentation and I'll be making pauses to go to the next slide. And I will also add the slide attached to this video. So enjoy. So in the table of contents, basically through the presentation, I'll cover the overview of the Family Medical and Leave Act, the history behind it, the basic guidelines, past court cases that have been associated with or have been included in the Family Medical and Leave Act, current issues that either have been discussed, covered, or any other issues that kind of came up in recent years, in the past 5 years, and then the conclusion. Okay. And in the overview, it's in order to maintain financial security, employment is essential for everyday life. So anything you do as far as bills, car notes, basic living expenses, everything requires money. We do not live back in the Stone Age. This is not the barter system where we have goods and services that we can trade between people. Everything is basically backed by the American dollar, which that is, backed by, other monetary means, maybe no money, maybe gold. Nobody really knows. So that's just, basically that's for everyday life. You need that. And so the Family Medical Leave Act was created after World War II. And in the first one, it actually covered up to 80 hours of home care per year. Okay, the history behind it was, like I discussed previously, it came after World War II because as soon as, we had the draft in, we had men basically being shipped off to go to war. So that took them out of the workforce, that took away, like we said, money for homes and basically paying bills. So the women basically had to go in their place and work in the steam plants, in being a secretary or coal mining, in anything. Basically, majority of men had to go, so women took their place. So even after the war, women were still in the workforce. They weren't going to leave. Some did, some didn't. So the Family Medical Leave Act was actually a bill that came up before the Medical Leave Act that wasn't successful. I didn't really get a clear name on the bill, but it was just a bill that came up, and basically after 2 years, it got disavowed. It was basically destroyed. So, and then one study showed that 29% of potential caregivers faced with this dilemma to decide to quit work altogether or give up hours at work just to take care of basically, geriatric patients or, your older family members that really can't take care of themselves. So basically they had to find some way to balance work and home. So the basic guidelines, which allow for elasticity with eligible employees, they can take care of immediate family members. So that went from children to, your parents, and may extend to your godparents. It even covers adopted or foster children because they're technically your children too, but it's just wanting to cover that because they didn't want bias between foster or adopted kids with paternal kids. So come up to 12 work weeks, a period of 12 months, which basically, it covered 12 weeks out of the year. And then it actually gave you what's called job security, or basically it was stating that if you were to go FMLA and come back from work, you're either guaranteed your job back, usually they hold your job, or a job that's equivalent to the job you just had, basically like the same pay, same hours, like nothing's supposed to change. It's supposed to be a job that's as close to being that job as possible. And so many court cases that came up because of FMLA either dealt with FMLA abuse, or it was like employer discretion as far as basically, terminations were concerned. So we have the first case, which is Felon, I guess that's how you pronounce it, versus City of Chicago. And that case was basically brought about because Felon, the employee, went on FMLA for, of course, medical reasons, because that's basically a Family Medical and Leave Act, was that you can go off work for either taking care of your spouse or even having to take care of yourself. So basically they did home health for themselves, and they came back to work and they were fired. So like I said before, it's supposed to be about job security. You're supposed to be able to leave and come back and have a job, but fella didn't have a job when he came back. He was let go, and he took his case to court, and the court found that even though, yes, FMLA promised you job security before you leave, they basically said the employer was in their right because before he went on FMLA, he showed actual poor work performance, and his replacement came in, and his replacement did a better job, increased productivity, showed basically what Felon lacked. The replacement showed, so they chose to hire the replacement on. They chose to hire him on and fire Felon. So, and that's just saying that even just show your work performance day in, day out, and before you go on FMLA, it's not saying that you're going to lose your job if you don't perform well. But if they choose to let you go, if you have a replacement that does a better job than you do, then, nothing is promised. So that's, what you can do. And then we've had several other cases with like Cariotis versus Navistar Transportation Corporation, Jasticism versus Advantage Health Physician, and Linberry versus Richards et al. Basic cases that dealt with FMLA abuse. FMLA abuse is when someone goes on FMLA, and you do have that certain amount of time, but they usually abuse it by being on home health care, but leaving the home. Like if you have a back injury, you're supposed to, be on bed rest and things like that, but you're actually going out, going grocery shopping, or going to parties, or going on basically field trips or family trips. You're not allowed to do that. That's FMLA abuse. And so what most of the employers did was actually have private investigators, kind of find out what was going on with the employee. And if they found out there was FMLA abuse intact, they fired the employee. Because that's basically, if you abuse FMLA, you can run the risk of getting fired, because FMLA is for your health or your family's health. And if you actually extending that and doing more than what you're supposed to be doing, and especially if you go out partying and post it on Facebook that you're on FMLA and you went out partying and one of your coworkers is like, isn't she supposed to be on leave? And she showed your peer, your coworker shows this to the supervisor, and you get fired because you just want to have a good time while you could have been at work but not. And current issues, like we had same sex being one of our bigger issues to come up, and they basically cover that states, recognize the same-sex marriage, same-sex spouses also have the same benefits as far as everyone else. And then they also had temporary contract workers, which, may have more than one job. Is typically specify that the primary employee, or if that worker does the most hours at this certain job, then that employment or employer is supposed to give the FMLA notices and take time off of work from that job. So like I stated before, in conclusions, FMLA is not perfect. They've had changes in 2012 to cover both military and airlines. So there are always going to be changes as far as anything, socioeconomical changes that we have. it's going to keep going. So pretty much it's, we're doing the best we can so far, but we can always do better. And we're going to always change it to benefit, our employees, which are the backbone of the company. Thank you and have a good day.